Hi, and welcome back to Module 6. Here we're going to begin to talk about research design. Throughout this module, we'll be learning those common research designs or those modes of which we inquire about a topic. So if we have our question in mind, what is an appropriate research design? The type of question, our theoretical framework, and ultimately our research paradigm should be guiding our research design. Here we list the three common research design: qualitative, quantitative, and mixed methods. So what's qualitative? It's simply a non-statistical technique helping us understand a problem. It typically makes use of a smaller subject pool. Quantitative research designs are heavily connected to statistical data. That statistical data helps explain some type of phenomenon. The results then for quantitative research are always reported in statistics. Mixed methods has become a more common research design of late. It makes use of both qualitative and quantitative methods. I'll explain each of these a bit more in detail in the coming slides. Let's first turn our attention to qualitative research. At the heart of qualitative research, it aims to develop theory, promotes description, understanding, and meaning. Some of the characteristics of qualitative research are small sample sizes. And in order to address some of the aims of qualitative research, typically the mode of questioning is done around open-ended questions. It's the focus of that research is on human experience and human interactions. There are some strengths to qualitative research, including the depth and richness of results. You can get below the surface with qualitative research. It also allows the researcher to ask follow-up questions. It's rather flexible in its ability to follow up and maybe even re-follow up on questions. Maybe the greatest strength of qualitative research is it gets at some of the more complex questions, like why. One example I have of qualitative research is a book that was written several years ago called Running with the Buffs. This book was a qualitative approach to understanding how the University of Colorado men's track and cross country team was so successful. The researcher immersed in the culture at the University of Colorado with the men's track and cross country team with the aim of understanding human experience and human interactions. The researcher and the author went on to detail at lengths beyond the surface of what their experience was like at the University of Colorado, and furthermore helped us understand why they were so successful. Our next research design is quantitative research. The purpose of quantitative research is to test theories by examining relationships between variables. A number of characteristics that make up quantitative research include that it's deductive in nature. It ultimately aims to test theories. Quantitative research uses instruments that produce data because the goal of quantitative research is to statistically analyze that data. And they use that data from larger population pools. Some of the strengths of quantitative research include that it allows precise measurements of those variables. With that, then, you can statistically test and analyze the research questions. Furthermore, unlike qualitative research, this allows the ability to perform longitudinal data collection, or the collection of data over a long period of time. One example of quantitative research may be that you, as a practitioner, want to understand what night of the week generates the highest attendance. You want to test the theories that attendance will increase on the weekends, and maybe you want to understand then that why Tuesday potentially may have the lowest attendance rates, or even if it does. So therefore, you would consider testing the relationship between attendance and day of the week. Another option for quantitative research would be whether or not marketing and or game day promotions drive attendance. So your two variables for consideration would be, again, attendance and promotions. You would be able to statistically chart and analyze that data to understand then what deemed to be the best marketing and/or game day promotional event. As you can see, that type of research is highly beneficial to practitioners. Here we are at our third and final research design mixed methods approach. This makes use of both qualitative and quantitative methods and considers them as complementary to each other. You can think about it a little bit as the best of both worlds. It crosses the use of generating theory through those small samplings which are done in qualitative research with the ability to test that theory through large populations or quantitative research. Let's return to our example earlier where we discussed considering which marketing and/or game day promotion generated the greatest attendance. If that is the instance, then we could take that information we have derived through that quantitative research to determine then that maybe the greatest marketing and/or promotional event was a bobblehead. If that's the instance, then maybe we then shrink that sampling size down to a handful and do some follow-up interviews to then get at the why bobbleheads, in our instance, happen to be the most sought after marketing and/or game day promotion. This will help us get at a little more at the question of understanding why bobbleheads, as we generated that concept originally from our quantitative research. Potentially one of the greatest components of research design is determining a sampling or a population. Some research will find it very difficult to acquire or get access to the population that they would desire or have that population in large enough quantity. So sampling is simply the process by which the researcher selects the subjects. The sample must appropriately reflect the population in question. In addition, though, sampling gives us the ability to narrow down our population so that it's an actual manageable subject pool. So, for example, if we want to think about attendance and game day promotions, we have to recognize that attendance may be a very large number. Sampling then may even allow us to get that down on a smaller scale. So instead of looking at attendance on every day or every Major League Baseball game, maybe we bring that sampling down to just attendance on those days that had a game day or marketing promotion. This slide breaks down a little more in detail the ways at which we can generate our sampling. Two concepts, probability sampling and non-probability sampling. Probability sampling is where each unit within a population has an equal probability of being chosen. Some of those examples include a stratified random sample, a cluster sample, and even a systematic sample. Next, there's the option of a non-probability sampling. It in and of itself does not involve random sampling. These samples include things like convenience sampling, purposive sampling, quota sampling, and heterogeneity sampling. Depending upon the research design, the research paradigm, as well as the theoretical framework, those pieces will ultimately dictate the way in which we choose our sample. Finally, we need to discuss some key research design components. These relate first to even our research design in and of itself, as well as sampling. Reliability and validity are key research design components that add to the credibility of our research. Reliability is simply the consistency of our results or the repeatability of our results. Validity ensures that our results are accurate or the measurements that we are taking are accurate. Both of them have ultimately too many types. These things should have been discussed in your stats class at length. I'm not going to go into them in detail here. However, we need to recognize that in order for our research to have credibility, we need to be able to show that our results are consistent or they're repeated across our population. In addition, we need to be able to show that our measurements measure what they're supposed to measure, and that also is ensured across our population. Here we are at the end of our discussion on research design. Hopefully you've been able to recognize that research design is connected. It's connected to our type of question, it's connected to our research paradigm, as well as the fact that it's connected to our theoretical framework. As we move forward, our next two modules, modules 7 and 8, are going to look at specific research paradigms. We'll be able to think about what it looks like to do questionnaires and maybe interviews. That way we can at least address those specifics that you will be encountering throughout your research process.